You know, after years of working with people, from business owners in Chicago struggling with intense job pressure, young adults in California racing to meet family expectations, to everyday individuals just trying to stay mentally steady in a world that never stops making noise, I've realized something fascinating. Most of us don't actually know how to love ourselves. Strange, isn't it? Something that sounds so simple, yet has become one of the hardest things to do today. Let me ask you something. Have you ever treated yourself worse than you would treat anyone else? Once, a patient of mine, a 28-year-old woman working in tech, sat across from me and admitted she always felt not good enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not perfect enough. I asked her, "Who taught you that?" She paused for a moment and whispered, "No one. But everything around me makes me feel that way." And you know what? I've heard that exact answer. We live in a time where social media constantly tells you that you need to be better, richer, smarter, more perfect. You need to become someone. You need to achieve something to be acknowledged. But on that journey, so many people lose the most important thing. They forget how to love themselves. Stoic philosophy, a tradition that survived more than 2,000 years, offers a completely different and incredibly powerful perspective. Self-love is not instinct. Self-love is a practice. It's not about spoiling yourself, shopping your problems away, or chasing quick hits of feeling good. It's a deeper kind of love, the kind built through discipline, kindness, and protecting your own mind and values. A friend of mine, a psychologist in New York, once said, "People today aren't lacking achievements, they're lacking self-compassion." And he was absolutely right. I once met a woman in her 40s, successful, respected, with a stable family, but she confessed, "Every day I judge myself, and most of the time I give myself a failing grade." She had compassion for everyone, except herself. Have you ever felt that way? Kind to others, yet brutally harsh with yourself? The Stoics noticed this long ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Treat yourself with the same respect you give to a dear friend." To the Stoics, self-love is not indulging your emotions. It's not giving yourself permission to avoid challenges. It is a responsibility to build a steady mind, a strong spirit, and a life worth living. I want you to imagine this. You're standing in front of the mirror in the morning. No makeup, no perfect hair, no polished look, just you. Your real face, your real eyes, the small lines, the tired marks from long days. And you can say to yourself, "I'm enough, I'm worthy, I'm trying, and today I choose to be kind to myself." If you can do that, you're already halfway to Stoic self-love. In my therapy sessions, I often ask people, would you say to your best friend the things you say to yourself? Almost everyone shakes their head and I respond, then why do you speak to yourself in ways you would never speak to anyone else? Stoicism teaches that how you treat yourself determines how you treat your life. A mind that is loved properly becomes stronger. A heart cared for with kindness becomes calmer. A person who knows their worth isn't easily shaken by comparison, pressure, or invisible fears. And I truly believe that in this modern world, moving so fast, demanding so much, there is no gift more important than learning how to love yourself. This video will help you do exactly that, not with cliches, not with complicated methods, but with Stoic wisdom, simple, practical, and deeply transformative. We'll explore why modern people struggle to love themselves, what self-love truly means through Stoic philosophy, and how to practice it every single day. But before we begin, I want you to gently ask yourself, when was the last time I treated myself with real kindness? If it takes you a long time to remember, then this video is meant for you. So let's begin this journey, a journey inward, a journey of returning to yourself, a journey of learning to love who you are in a stronger, deeper, and more resilient way. 1. Why modern people struggle to love themselves. When we talk about self-love, it sounds simple, but you and I both know it's not. Especially today, in an age of non-stop comparison, endless expectations and constant noise. I used to believe that loving yourself was natural, almost like a built-in survival instinct. But the more I worked with people, the more I realized the opposite. Most people know how to love others, but they've forgotten how to love themselves. And the deeper reason isn't that we don't want to love ourselves, it's that the modern world quietly takes that ability away from us. Let me tell you a story about a young man named Michael, a patient I once worked with. Michael was smart, kind, hardworking, but every time he looked in the mirror, all he saw were his flaws. He told me, "I know I'm not terrible, but I always feel like I'm losing to someone out there." Have you ever seen that version of yourself? The one that always feels not enough, not good enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough to be loved? When I asked Michael why he felt this way, he pointed to his phone and said, "Every time I open social media, I feel like I'm losing to the entire world." And that brings us to the first reason modern people struggle to love themselves. A1. We constantly compare ourselves to edited versions of other people. Think about it. In the past, you could only compare yourself with your neighbors. Now, with one swipe, you can compare yourself with 8 billion people. The Stoics warned us thousands of years ago, if you seek your worth outside yourself, you will never find it. Yet the modern world pushes us to do the opposite. We measure ourselves by follower count, likes, other people's approval, surface level achievements, compliments and criticisms from strangers, and eventually we convince ourselves that we only deserve love after we achieve all those things. A2. We live in a culture of impossible expectations. I meet so many people crushed by invisible standards. You must succeed by this age. You must be independent by that age. You must achieve as much as your peers. You must build a proper career. A successful businesswoman I coached once told me, "Every day I tell myself, I need to do better, I'm still not enough." She earned more than most, was respected, had a loving family, but her self-love was nearly non-existent. I asked her, "If your best friend achieved exactly what you have, would you tell her she's not enough?" She laughed, "Of course not, I'd be proud of her." I looked at her and said, "Then why aren't you proud of yourself?" She went silent for a long time, because she realized something many of us are guilty of. We set impossibly high standards for ourselves, and we are far too lenient with our own pain. Stoicism doesn't teach perfection, it teaches progress, even tiny progress. But the modern world demands fast, loud, visible progress. A3. We confuse our self-worth with external success. Many people believe, when I succeed, I'll love myself. When I make enough money, I'll be happy. When people approve of me, I'll feel valuable. But that's a trap. A trap the Stoics recognized even during the Roman Empire. Seneca wrote, "A person who does not know their own worth will always be a slave to others." When your worth depends on outcomes, you become a prisoner of circumstances. One small failure can make you attack yourself, doubt yourself, or feel worthless. Once, a student told me he felt useless after failing a test. I asked him, "Does that score define who you are?" He answered, "Maybe not, but that's how it made me feel." And that's exactly what millions of people experience every day. A4. And the deepest reason of all, we've forgotten how to speak kindly to ourselves. Many people are great at comforting others, but speak to themselves with the harshest, cruelest words. They criticize themselves, punish themselves, damage their own minds without realizing it. The Stoics believed your mind is your lifelong companion. If you don't treat it well, you will never find peace. I remember asking a patient to write down what he usually told himself every time he failed. When he read it, he cried. He said, If anyone else talked to me this way, I'd walk away immediately. And I asked there, then why do you accept hearing those words from yourself? No one can love themselves when they are the source of their own pain, and that is why modern people struggle to love themselves. Not because we're weak, not because we're unworthy, but because the world today is too loud, too fast, too full of expectations, to the point that we no longer hear our own inner voice. But here is the beautiful truth. Once you understand the roots of the problem, you can begin to heal. In the next part, we'll explore an even more important question. What does self-love truly mean through the lens of Stoic philosophy? And how can you love yourself in a way that is right, strong, and sustainable? Let's continue this journey together. 2. What does self-love really mean in Stoicism? In the previous section, we talked about why modern people struggle to love themselves, but understanding the problem is only half the journey. The other half in Stoicism, and the most important one is knowing how to love yourself the right way. And this is where Stoic philosophy shines like a light in the dark. You see, when most people hear about self-love, they think of pampering themselves, finding ways to feel good, or doing something comforting. But to the Stoics, self-love is something completely different. It's not glamorous, it's not sugary sweet, it's definitely not the modern just love yourself however you want message Stoics believe. Self-love is treating yourself with deep respect, through actions, choices, and discipline, not just through emotions. Let's start with a powerful quote from Epictetus. No one can harm you as much as your own thoughts about yourself. The first time I read that, I had to close the book and sit still for a moment, because it's painfully true for so many people today. So what does Stoic self-love actually mean? Self-love is protecting your own mind. A 35-year-old teacher I worked with always felt devastated whenever she received criticism, not because the words were harsh, but because she believed every criticism defined her worth. I told her, self-love isn't avoiding criticism. Self-love is refusing to let criticism become the measure of your value. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If you let others decide your worth, you have given them your soul." Stoicism teaches this simple truth. You can't control what others say, but you have full control over what you allow into your mind. And that is one of the deepest acts of self-love. Self-love is accepting who you truly are. Many people think accepting themselves means giving up or not trying anymore. But the Stoics saw it differently. Acceptance means facing the truth without running away. It means knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and not hating any part of yourself for existing. I once worked with a young artist who constantly blamed himself because he wasn't famous yet, or not as successful as his friends. He told me, "I feel like a failure because I haven't achieved what I was supposed to achieve." So I asked him, "Is that what you want, or is that what the world told you to want?" He fell silent. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's striving from a place of clarity, kindness, and authenticity. Your authenticity, self-love in Stoicism, is speaking to yourself with kindness. Have you noticed something? People today are excellent at speaking kindly to others, but unbelievably cruel to themselves. I once had a patient record his thoughts during moments of failure. When he listened back, he cried. He said, "If someone else talked to me this way, I'd never speak to them again." And I told him, "Then why do you tolerate being treated this way? By yourself." Stoics didn't see kindness toward oneself as weakness. They saw it as a sign of inner strength. Seneca advised Jesus, "Be your own best companion." Self-kindness isn't self-indulgence. It's creating a mental environment where you can grow without fear or self-destruction. Self-love is living in alignment with your values. Nothing destroys self-esteem faster than living a life that isn't truly yours. I once met a woman in the medical field who felt heavy and unhappy despite having a stable, respected, high-paying career. Eventually, she realized she had been living according to her parents' expectations, her colleagues' approval, and society's definition of success, not her own values. She said, "I'm good at my job, but I'm not happy because it's not my path." Stoics teach a life lived out of alignment with your values will always feel uneasy. No matter how successful it looks, Stoic self-love means having the courage to ask yourself, what truly matters to me? And being brave enough to live according to the answer. Self-love is setting boundaries. You can't love yourself if you allow others to constantly drain your time, energy, or emotional space. Epictetus said, "Never allow anyone to take your peace unless you give it away." One of the deepest forms of self-love is learning to say no to the things that exhaust you, to guard your energy as if it was something precious, because it is. Your mental energy is one of the most valuable resources you'll ever have. Self-love is action, not just emotion. And this may be the biggest difference between modern self-love and Stoic self-love. Social media tells you, do what makes you happy. You deserve to relax. Don't push yourself. These messages aren't wrong, they're just incomplete Stoic self-love teachers. If you truly love yourself, you act in the interest of your best self, even when it's hard, even when it's not comfortable. Go to bed on time, eat what nourishes you, move your body, work with integrity. Don't run from challenges. Don't give in to habits that weaken you. That is self-love in Stoicism, love through discipline, love through self-respect, love through the good choices you make for yourself every day. In short, Stoic self-love isn't a feeling, it's a way of living. A way of living where you protect your mind, honor your values, speak kindly to yourself, and choose actions that make you stronger and healthier over time. In the next section, we'll explore the most important part. How do you practice Stoic self-love every single day? Join me, and join Stoic Awakening more, as we walk through simple, powerful practices that can genuinely change your life. We'll continue right after this. 3 Stoic practices to help you love yourself every day. In the first 2 parts, we talked about why modern people struggle to love themselves and what self-love really means from a Stoic perspective. But understanding isn't enough. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If philosophy is not practiced, it is nothing but empty noise." So in this section, I want to share 3 Stoic practices, simple, powerful, and deeply transformative, that you can start applying today to love yourself in a way that is steady, grounded, and long-lasting. These aren't complicated exercises. These are practices I've used for myself, for my patients, and for countless people on their healing journey. And the beautiful thing is, if you do just one of these each day, you are already honoring your soul in the Stoic way. Practice 1. Honest and kind self-talk, the quality of your inner voice. I often tell people, you are the one person you'll spend your entire life with, so the way you talk to yourself matters more than you think. Over the years, I've met many people who look successful on the outside, but inside they're drowning in self-criticism. One mother once told me, "I never praise myself. Every time I make a mistake, I just want to slap myself." I asked her, "If your daughter made a mistake, would you treat her that way?" She immediately burst into tears because she knew the answer. The Stoics believed no one can hurt you more deeply than the voice inside your own mind. And at the same time, that same voice can be the most powerful healer you have. Here's a simple exercise Marcus Aurelius did every night. Write down 3 things you did well today, no matter how small. Don't judge, don't compare, just acknowledge. A patient of mine in Boston tried this exercise. At first he said he had nothing to write, but after 3 days he began to realize he wasn't as useless as he thought. After 3 weeks he told me he felt lighter than he had in years. Kind self-talk isn't about saying sweet things you don't believe. It's honest, as we're said, with compassion. And that is Stoic self-love. Practice 2. Focus on what you can control. Release what destroys you. If Stoicism had one golden rule, it would be, you control your actions, not the outcome. And this is the foundation of self-love. When people try to control things outside their reach, other people's opinions, society's expectations, future results, they inevitably end up disappointed in themselves. They feel not enough. They feel like failures. I want you to picture this. You shoot an arrow at a target. You aim carefully. You pull the bow with precision. You do everything right, but the moment the arrow leaves your hand, a strong gust of wind blows and the arrow veers off course. Did you fail? A Stoic would say, no, you succeeded in the part that was yours. A student once told me he felt worthless because he didn't score high on his exam. I asked him, did you study sincerely? He said, yes. I smiled. Then you succeeded. The score is just the wind. Stoic self-love is understanding this. You deserve respect, not because of the result, but because of your honest effort. And when you focus only on what you can control, you stop punishing yourself for things that were never yours to own. Practice 3. Give yourself time, the way you would for a dear friend. Here's a truth I often remind people. You cannot love yourself if you never spend time with yourself. No one can love someone they constantly ignore, but most people today treat themselves exactly that way. They do everything for others. They give all their time to work. They're always available for everyone but never for themselves. A 42-year-old patient once told me, I don't remember the last time I sat alone. When you don't spend time inward, you drift away from yourself. And when you're distant from yourself, you can't love yourself. The Stoics valued solitude deeply, not for loneliness, but for reconnecting with the inner world. I often suggest 3 simple habits. A slow 10-minute morning walk with no phone, a quiet cup of tea, 5 minutes of journaling before bed. Simple things, but they help you hear yourself again, hear your emotions, hear your needs, hear the things you've ignored for too long. And only when you are truly present with yourself can you begin to love yourself from the roots, not in a shallow way, but with real understanding. A friend of mine once said something I never forgot. We can't love what we never take the time to truly see. Spending time with yourself is how you begin to see yourself again. If you notice, none of these 3 practices have anything to do with indulgence. They're not about going to the spa. They're not about shopping. They're not about treating yourself to something fancy. They're about how you speak to yourself, how you deal with what you can control, how you spend time with your own mind. These are all actions, these are all choices, and that's exactly why Stoic self-love is so powerful. It doesn't depend on temporary feelings, it relies on your daily actions, the actions you take for your best self, even in the smallest ways. Now that you've walked through all 3 parts of this journey with me, I believe you've felt something important. Loving yourself isn't indulgence, it's discipline. It's responsibility. It's a daily practice, even if those practices are small. The Stoics never promised an easy life, but they always reminded us, if you take good care of your inner world, you can move through any storm. Stoic self-love isn't about saying, I'm perfect. It's about saying, I deserve kindness, respect, and honesty, even from myself. When you start speaking to yourself with kindness, you rebuild the foundation of your mind. When you focus on what you can control, you reclaim your freedom. When you give yourself time, you begin to hear the quiet desires inside you, the ones you've ignored for far too long. And then you discover something beautifully simple. Self-love doesn't appear on its own. It grows, little by little, choice by choice. One day you begin by writing down 3 things you did well. Another day, you allow yourself 10 quiet minutes to breathe. Another day still, you tell yourself, "It's okay, I'm trying." These tiny actions, even if you barely notice them, are slowly healing your mind. They are shaping you into someone more confident, stronger, and more at peace. Before we close today's video, I want you to remember this. No one can truly love you the way you deserve. If you don't know how to love yourself first, and Stoic self-love isn't a destination, it's a journey. A journey where each day you understand yourself a little more, accept yourself a little more, and support yourself a little more. If even one idea from today's video touched you, a sentence, a perspective, a moment that made you pause, then I'd love to invite you to continue this journey with me. Here at Stoic Awakening More, we don't just study Stoicism, we live it, we practice it, we bring it into every breath, every decision, every relationship. If you want to build a stronger mind, a calmer heart, and a deeper life from the inside out, then hit like so YouTube knows you want more peaceful, meaningful content like this. Hit subscribe so you won't miss any new videos on awakening Stoicism and building inner strength. Share this video because someone you care about might need a little light, a little calm, or a little encouragement today. Leave a comment, tell me, which of the 3 practices will you start with, or which insight made you think the most? I read every comment and I truly appreciate every word you share. Thank you for spending your time with this video. Thank you for opening your heart to the journey of understanding yourself, and thank you for allowing me to walk beside you on this path of loving yourself in a stronger, deeper, and more enduring way. I'll see you in the next video on Stoic Awakening More, where each day we learn to live a little slower, a little kinder, and a little more in love with who we are becoming. See you soon.